Hi, everyone, and welcome to Three Questions, a time when we sit down with normal members of our community as they reflect on where God is moving in their lives and we listen to hopefully hear God's still small voice speaking into ours. You may have noticed that we took a little bit of a break, and that's because we've been working on a new batch of interviews with a new set of questions, all focusing on this idea of Jubilee. It is a set of laws that is all about liberation and what it means to be forgiven and free people, both materially and spiritually. And so that is our focus for the next 5 interviews that you'll be watching. This week we sit down with Roger Garthwaite, and I feel comfortable in saying that this is the most beautiful conversation that we have done so far. I don't want to give away anything that is shared, but to let you know that if you don't watch any of the other ones, this is the one that you should watch. And so now, please enjoy 3 Questions with Roger. Roger, for our first question, I'm going to ask you to state your name, and then for 1 minute without stopping, complete the sentence, I am.
My name is Roger Garthwaite, and I am a resident of State College. I am a grandfather. I am a restaurant owner. I am excited about my faith journey. I am involved in a lot of little side activities with regard to my faith. I am a living school graduate, Richard Rohr's living school graduate. I am about to move into a different housing arrangement in the not too different future. But I am missing my brother who passed away about 6 weeks ago. I am...
That's 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you. Roger, will you tell us about a time that you have experienced God's freedom?
Yeah, I can think of several, but I think one of the ones that had the biggest impact on me is back in 2016. My very good friend from for many, many years, from way back in our neighborhood in 4th or 5th grade, had been diagnosed with ALS, and we often, he and I and his wife and Maureen, often vacation together. And so we were going to plan a vacation together in Florida, not knowing how long he had. And on the trip down, he and I got to talking about faith, and he was not a devout Christian or an active participant in any faith. Grew up as a Catholic, but I got around to he asked me if I would baptize him, and I asked him why, and he said to me that over all the years that we'd partied together and hunted together and fished together, that he always felt that I was less stressed than he was. That there was something about my demeanor that he found helpful or found calming. And I told him that I thought it was because my faith was strong, and that I tried as best I could to be a faithful person and to enjoy the freedom of having that faith. So we got to Florida, and after a kind of a difficult week or so there, we went to this island off the coast of Florida and on the Gulf of Mexico. And I had written a little baptismal thing, and the next thing I know, I'm standing in the water, he's standing in the water, his wife's on one side, I'm on the other side, my wife's on the other side, and you could just feel him becoming part of himself. We cried. We hugged. But I felt a great deal of felt a great deal of spirit in me that I hope I had contributed to his life. And he passed away about 2 months later.
What is it about that experience that you think was so freeing?
I think part of it was my own willingness to engage, not only in conversation with him, but also to be excited for and was anticipating this opportunity to baptize him. As Protestants and Presbyterians, we tend to be fairly inward. You know, we don't have a chance to be outward, but you know, all my experiences here, and especially in this church, with Fish and my faith in my more recent years, has been more outward. I mean, I just feel free to express feelings like that. If I'm prompted, I don't try to push it on people.
Yeah.
You and I will change. You and I will change, but the blood is still the same. Showering the saints. Everything will break. Everything will break. If it's fire, if it's rain.
Bring us back.
Everything is grace.
Has there been a time in your life in which you have experienced particularly powerful forgiveness?
When I was in high school, I was probably in 10th grade. And at the time I had 3 younger brothers, a sister and 3 younger brothers. And they took my brothers and sister over to a cabin that my father had built 20 miles away. Anyways, an accident happened. And the accident was a tragic accident. My next brother, who was 8, my father had allowed him and my other brother, who was 7, to use a .22 to target shoot. And at some point, my dad wasn't there to supervise, and shot was fired, and my 7-year-old brother Gary was hit. And before they could get him to the hospital, he died. My brother Greg, who was 8, had shot him. And obviously it was a tragic time for all of us. And you know, I think at that time in my life, the word forgiveness wasn't part of my common vocabulary. You know, I did what I could do to make my brother feel okay. And so years go on, and my brother, who's, I believe, carried a lot of guilt about this, and I for years I never really understood why. And finally, maybe 5 years ago, you know, after 45 years, we were together, and he told me that the accident wasn't an accident, that he did in fact intentionally shoot his younger brother. You know, and I immediately realized that to the best of my knowledge, he had never received any kind of counseling after all this happened. And also I realized that my parents knew what happened. And I was the only one in the family that didn't know what happened, what actually happened. So your first reaction is to kind of be angry. Then after not thinking for very long, I realized, here's my brother Greg, who's carried this burden with him so for all these years, and And anytime it's ever brought up, which was very rare, it was always an accident. And yet, he somehow he survived all those years doing that. And I immediately reached over and we hugged, and I said, I forgive you for anything that happened there. So I said, as far as I'm concerned, it was an accident. And I said, I guess I have to forgive our parents too, for the way that they responded. And that was probably the hardest forgiveness that I had to give, but it was also probably the best thing that could happen at that time between me and my brother. And in fact, losing him about 6 weeks ago has made it extra hard on us, because we've grown pretty close in the last 10 years. Yeah. Forgiveness is a tough one.
I still need you, Father, trusting in this great unknown. I still need you, Mother, comfort me until we're home. I still need you.
What would you say to someone who's looking to experience a deep freedom? The kind that can forgive freely.
I think they have to spend some time in prayer and solitude, internalizing what they want to do, internalizing to the point that this is something that they believe needs to be done and needs to be shared and that they're comfortable with, as opposed to just giving a canned response to somebody. We have a choice. We can either respond by how we think, our friends and the public and whatnot expect us to respond, or we can respond the way, I guess I'd say the way I think Jesus would respond. And I think that response requires a patience, the ability to listen, and the ability to forgive yourself if, in fact, you say something that doesn't help the situation.
Is there anything else that you would like to share to make this time more complete?
That we were all created with a soul, and I and others believe that soul was placed in our heart, and that with a little bit of work and a little bit of training, you can, in fact, think more from your heart space than your head space. If you can internalize that and make that part of your daily, like brushing your teeth, keep this in mind here. There's a lot of times when you're sitting across from somebody having a conversation that starts going south, that your head wants to say something, but you've got to get the heart. You got to just hold back, and I think that's helpful. And maybe the other is that I'm convinced that there's lessons to be learned and great experiences to be had by being able to be, in some way, shape, or form, spend some time in contemplation. I just, there are so many distractions that we are faced with every second of our lives, that to be able to get to the point where you can actually set those aside, and if you're only fortunate 1 out of 7 days of your 20-minute sit, to actually all of a sudden realize, gee, that just might have been God speaking to me there. Even that one time is enough to carry on. So those are a couple of things that I feel are important and often but we're lazy. We don't do either one of them enough.
The last question. Summarize for us in just a few words what you heard in this time.
The forgiveness part is probably the biggest thing the biggest takeaway I would take from this experience is we have to be, if we want to be loving, we have to be forgiving.
Roger, thank you very, very much.
Mother, father, sister, brother, I believe we need each other.
Do I get a grade?
A.
A+.